Hello, everyone. Welcome. It is Monday night. It is time for revolutionary change. I'm Jen Perelman.
I'm Peter Hager, and it is good to see you in your coffee. I got to get one of them for myself.
Yes, I highly recommend this one. This is the one. This is the Hirbawi. This is the oldest. This is the last and only kefir brand still made in Palestine. And this is their, and we are fortunate here in the States that they have a distribution center here. So I have found out that apparently our wait time is not as long to get them as it is for people who don't have a closer distribution center.
Guys, smash that like button if you can. Obviously, you know, we're rolling up against the algorithm,
Yes.
which is a problem. Herbawi. Herbawi. Okay, so that's good to know. Let's get this out of the way because obviously you guys are going to want us to probably address it at some point.
Wait, what are we addressing?
Tomorrow is a big day. Selection day. You guys know who is our #1 candidate tomorrow. Shama Sawant will hopefully get through and be one of the top 2 candidates in Washington's 9th congressional district. We've put in, obviously, a lot of time and effort to help her out. You guys have been amazing, obviously, with supporting the PAC. So here's hoping that we get her through, and then we can take it a step further in the general election where we will be addressing Adam Smith directly. That's #1. Obviously, it goes without saying, Senate race in Michigan. Abdullah Saeed, it does appear, is going to win, but nothing is guaranteed. Get to the polls, make sure that you do. I've said from the beginning, my instinct has always been saying that Saeed was going to win for one simple variable. He is a great candidate, and Haley Stevens is a disaster candidate.
She's horrible. She's horrible.
And when you really get down to it, to brass tacks, Jen, I think you would agree. The candidate dynamic has a lot to do with whether or not a person wins or loses. And you've always said, I mean, listen, Saeed was never going to be able to compete with Stevens financially, but he didn't need to. That wasn't the essence of it. It really came down to, does he have enough to compete in just in the arena? If he has enough, then he's going to be viable. And that's essentially what happened.
I mean, that's 2 different issues. So on the one issue, we always say that you just need to have what you need money-wise to hit the amount of voters that you need to hit, the amount of times you need to hit them, whatever that looks like in your district, in your whatever your state. And if you have what you need, it doesn't matter how much more they have. I said that when it was Hillary and Trump. I said that when it was Kamala and Trump. Yep. I've always said that because it's true. But the other issue is he is a very particularly good candidate. And at the end of the day, and this is what I have learned more than anything in doing this, seriously, this is what really matters the most. They have to like you.
Yeah.
They have to like you. You have to be likable. People have to like you. And that's just the way it is, whether it's to donate to you or to vote for you. They have to like you. Yeah. And when people aren't likable, then they have to resort to other means to get elected. People like Debbie Wasserman Schultz. Like, there's people that get elected even though nobody likes them. And you wonder, how does that happen? Because those people are entrenched and they use their power in nefarious ways to maintain power without having to be liked. But for a new candidate to come forward now, you really need to be likable.
Yeah, I think that is a huge dynamic that is shifting. Now, I don't think that that's going to work everywhere. Like South Florida, for example, it's a different dynamic because the thing you have to remember is that one of the big things about the state of Michigan is that it's a Rust Belt upper Midwest state. And because of that, that is something. Listen, I said that.
I want to address that because I actually think I have an answer to that. But go ahead, Peter. What's your thoughts?
Yeah. So again, as I was saying, I think that you have to have if there is a clear-cut dynamic that was sort of like an awakening situation for so many of us, is that, yes, the Democratic Party establishment led by Debbie Wasserman Schultz cheated Bernie Sanders against Hillary Clinton. That was obvious. And you could say that Bernie was a curmudgeon of a candidate in many ways, and he was, but he had a movement, a legitimate movement behind her. Hillary Clinton had a machine. She didn't have people. She didn't have the people behind her.
Brandon Klein was endorsed by Donald Trump.
The blessing, like they put Fauci on the Catholic prayer candles. That's the same thing with Trump. Saint Trump blesses you, especially in the GOP primary. It's going to pay dividends, and that is ultimately why you would win.
Now, I don't know. I mean, I would guess that Stevens would be most of their choice. As to why they put her over McMorrow, I mean, to be honest, I don't think McMorrow was that better of a candidate. She was slightly more physically palatable and listenable, but really very cringy and very, I
not in the way Stevens is. Not in the way Stevens is.
No, it's a different kind of cringy. It's a different kind of cringy. But McMorrow was always in there for the same purpose. It was never, Stevens was always their pick.
Yeah, I agree.
McMorrow was just in there to draw votes away from Syed. Didn't work.
The fact of the matter is, if we're getting down to brass tacks here, why this ultimately happened is that Bernie, unfortunately, despite the fact that he really was a very unique candidate in 2015 and 2016, is that when push came to shove, he reverted back to the fact that he is the establishment. He is. And he may not claim that he is. And of course, he allowed the establishment to beat him into the ground that it was his fault that Trump won the election. Not Debbie Wasserman Schultz's or Hillary Clinton's or Robbie Mook's or anybody else's. It was his fault because he couldn't get his people in line. They didn't listen. They did not fall in line. They weren't good foot soldiers. They became suppressive people, kind of like in Scientology. So that's essentially what happened. He got his mind right. He got in line, and he was never the same after that. And that's why when he ran in 20, it wasn't the same as 2016. But what we learned from that election is that all things being equal, the dynamicism of a particular candidate really does make a difference. However, and this is why we bring this up. Again, we hope Cori Bush wins tomorrow. Yes. I hope that Donovan McKinney wins against Sri Shavender, or however the fuck you say his name, Mr. APAC extraordinaire.
When's New York? New York's not tomorrow. Who's tomorrow? Is it Missouri,
Michigan, Missouri, and Washington. I believe that's the three states that go tomorrow.
Okay.
But I bring this up because I came across this clip a little while ago, Jen. Now, you guys obviously all remember Melat Kiros, who won her primary in Colorado's 1st District, which covers a area that Jen used to reside in a number of years ago. But nevertheless, Kiros is somebody who I think a lot of people have high hopes for, that she could be a force on Capitol Hill. DSA.
Not after I saw this video, she can't. So if you're going to show what they showed on Punch Up last night, let me tell you.
Yeah. So in case you're wondering, you know how everybody got on Hillary Clinton when she said, I have a public position and a private position? Well, here comes your private position in public now.
Israel or anywhere in the region. Would it change your mind or open your perspectives if you did?
I'm sure it would, right? Part of the work that we've been doing here as well is having conversations with, the Jewish community, specifically the Zionist Jewish community, to better understand different perspectives, different positions, different experiences. Again, my values have always been rooted in protecting dignity and safety for every single person, especially as it relates to these inalienable things about our, religion or ethnicity or culture. And my greatest concern right now is that the state of Israel is losing support all across.
That's your biggest concern? That's your biggest concern?
Let me tell you, I heard about her. I remember when she won. I know who we're talking about. I didn't know anything about her, didn't really investigate it, didn't look into it, didn't care. So I'm happy to say I did not support this twat, but this is a whole bunch of shit. Now, I don't know, if that district is still a sure thing blue district, but this kind of talk, it is. Oh, so then she's the sure thing. So whatever.
Oh, absolutely.
But she's just another bullshit.
Yeah. Well, that's exactly why you could come out and say this. And this is exactly why I just want to say, from my perspective, I appreciate her saying this. I do. Because what you have to remember, ladies and gentlemen, and this is one of the reasons why we do not have the most positive opinion about the DSA. They are going to try to sheep herd you back into the Democratic Party, and this is the type of shit that is going to become front and center. Now, I'm not saying that that's how it's going to be for everybody. I'm not saying that Zoran is not going to curtail the people that he is ushering into positions of power. I actually think Zoran is the one person out there who understands his ability to create a real power dynamic in New York that can't be recreated in other places. However,
I also think about him, he doesn't have a public position and a private position. I actually think he believes in what he's saying. I do. Now, what he can effectively get through, but I do think he's much better at putting out there what he knows can happen versus putting out there bullshit and then having to backtrack. Or she's been a plant the whole time. So for somebody asking, this is the woman who just won the primary in Denver that is going to be the new congressperson from the Denver area. And Melat Kiros,
political spectrum here in the U.S. And I believe that I think we're leaving a vacuum on the left and the progressive wing to speak to this criticism in a way that is in line with our values, to where people like Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens, who are raging anti-Semites, and
what in the ever-loving fuck is wrong with you? I feel like this lady.
And when you say, is she a Zionist? I'm going to say worse. She's what they call a liberal Zionist, apparently. This bitch is probably still touting the two-state solution. That's what she's talking about.
Raging anti-Semites. Listen,
In what way?
Say that about Nick Fuentes. Say that about, think of any cringe, right-wing, crazy person. And we'll get to who she's addressing in a minute, because obviously that's one of the main stories we're addressing tonight. But I thought it was important to just get to this point, because if there's one thing we understand about the situation we're in right now, this revolutionary situation we're in, you can have significant disagreements with Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson. But to go after them in this capacity, when they have been front and center speaking out against the state of Israel more than any voice, it's like she got her talking points. Like, oh, yes, master. Yes, master. I understand the rules. I understand my responsibilities now. I got my mind right.
That's exactly what that means. The fact that she is talking about them means that she was given those talking points and she's already in line with the party. So whatever bullshit she sold y'all out in Colorado, wherein you thought she might have been, I don't know, standing up to the party values, she clearly just toes the party line. That's her. Talking about both sides and understanding the perspective of Zionists. There's no understanding Zionists. There's no understand. That's like saying, you know what, we need to really discuss a position with the Nazis and really have an understanding with them. That's how stupid this bitch sounds.
Oh, no, we're going to have fun with this, because we've got a couple of Zio hunting to do later on in this show.
Oh, I sent you a couple of good ones.
Yeah, we'll continue.
White supremacists and Christian nationalists are pretending to care about Palestinian safety. Really, it's just masking their overt hatred of Jewish people.
You're singing my song.
And if we are not presenting our vision of what we believe in with our democratic values, extends not just to the Palestinian people, but to the Israeli people and to the Jewish people, that land has a distinctly Jewish character, a distinctly distinctly Muslim character.
Oh, no, stupid twat. It has a distinctly Palestinian character. That's what it has, because it's Palestinian, right? There's no Jewish character about that. It's Palestinian, some of whom were Jews. The Palestinian Jews, like those Jews. Yeah, there were those people. But other than that, there's no Jewish character there. None. Just Palestinian as far as the eye can see. That's it.
Character. Yeah. It's a land that has seen bloodshed for centuries. And we, I think, are doing a disservice to the people of that region by not offering our progressive vision in in a way that isn't immediately swatted down as, bigoted or anti-Semitic. And that's going to require a lot of conversations, a lot of hard conversations. There will be things that we learn, there will be missteps and mistakes made. But as long as we're continuing that conversation, we are at the very least presenting an actual vision in line with our values that can combat and hopefully silence a lot of the anti-Semitism that's coming from the right, because we're leaving that vacuum wide open right now if we are afraid to have these conversations.
One of the things.
Okay, first of all, we are so far past conversations. We are so far past conversations. I don't know what her background is. What's her ethnic background? Does anybody know what where she comes from, whatever it is? Because she clearly has no concept of oppressed peoples, none. So I'm curious what her background is. She thinks we should still be having a conversation. We're so far past the conversation, lady. I don't know what she's talking about.
According to one of our New York friends, she was, listen, here's the thing that you have to remember. And this is what, I wasn't even going to bring this up, but it's pretty obvious that she's going through an AOC speed run is essentially what she's doing. That's effectively what she's done. Now, when you look into the history.
I question that narrative now. I wonder if her being fired from her job as pro-Palestinian is sort of like how Alex was just a meager bartender. A working class bartender.
Yeah, and it turns out that Alex was actually a part owner in the bar that she was bartending in. And that is actually not an uncommon thing, especially in places like Westchester County, New York, which is where she comes from. Despite
so
what
this
she would
woman does not seem like, I do not see, I don't know. I think they took whatever happened to her, twisted it to fit that narrative to push her through in progressive places. But she is clearly not a progressive. She has no concept of oppressed people. She clearly does not know the history of Palestine, and she should just go shut the fuck up.
And the thing, and again, what you're seeing, and Andrea took the words out of my mouth as was the case. I was like, listen, I'm like listening to Alex do in a speed run. I'm watching a person who comes out and says one thing, and then what it turns out is that, she probably wasn't even fired. And if you haven't hit that like button yet, guys, please do.
Well, that's what I'm thinking. What I'm thinking is it could be something that she did decide to leave. And maybe they just, that story, now that I just heard her speak, and I didn't
an
really
origin
know
story.
That her origin story, I call bullshit.
Yeah.
I call bullshit. And I just, again, we're not falling for this shit anymore.
No, but again, as I said, this is one of the great things about the era and the moment that we're living in right now, where she has
controlled opposition.
Yeah.
Just controlled opposition.
Completely snuffed out. Yeah. And this is exactly why Sharma's election is so important. Because if the DSA won't touch Sharma, but they'll touch this, if you have these members and you're vetting this election and you're thinking, oh, yeah, she's a woman of color, she's a lawyer, she's smart, she's pretty, she's this, she's that. Oh, this is great. Let's run her because we've got a 30-year incumbent that won't leave. You see, they would do the same thing to Adam Smith if they could get away with it, but you see, they can't get away with it. So they have Sharma and they can't back Sharma. You know why? Because Sharma can't be controlled. And that's the biggest reason why they didn't want Bernie in the first place, why they didn't want Trump in the first place. She claims she's Jewish.
She was Jewish.
Alex did
that
claim
woman
that
we just saw claimed she's Jewish?
I don't think so, but I know that Alex claimed that she was.
Alex claimed she was Jewish?
Uh-huh.
Which part of her, the Ocasio or the Cortez? Which part of that did she claim was Jewish?
I guess whichever Spanish conquering part of her, I suppose. But that's what you guys have to accept is this reality. We cannot put these people on pedestals and think, oh yeah, completely. These people are amazing. You know, we are the ones that we've been waiting for. You know, the one thing Bernie was always right about when he ran the first time was he would always say, it's not me, it's us. And he's right. You cannot expect that some person is going to lead this effort. And that is another thing that we've been emphasizing. You cannot have a demagogue like Trump who's, I'm totally going to save the day. No, we are going to save the day and they are going to do as we say.
So now Alex has claimed that she's a Sephardic Jew. This is news to me. I'm curious. Is it her mother or her father that is Sephardim? And if not, has she properly converted. And this is all news to me. Very interesting. Okay. Oh my goodness.
We've seen this movie play out before. This should not come as any surprise. So when Kiros sat down and made the statement that she made, and of course she makes it on whatever, if it was 60 minutes that she was interviewed. So of course, where does she go to give this interview? She goes to give it on Barry Weiss's channel. This is where she goes.
That's where she got her talking points from. That's the reason she's there. She is specifically there because they think that they've convinced people that this is someone who's a leftist. And now she's going to be there and try to usher them to this ridiculous liberal Zio position and act like the Democratic Party has values. I love when she says we need to get back to our values. What values are those?
And this
what
is
are
exactly,
their values?
And this is exactly why. This is exactly why. This is the reason why when we say that the change that we seek, as unfortunate as this is for some people to come to terms with, that doesn't mean the populist left cannot be involved. But Jen, you've been saying for the longest time, the change is going to come from the populist right. That's where it will happen.
Because the Democrats are too cowardly and too incapable. And really, they're not there for anything other than controlled opposition and MIC resistance. They're not there to actually accomplish anything. So why would they do something wherein to accomplish something when their whole purpose is to not accomplish anything? And I do believe that any sort of crack in the duopoly is only going to come on the Republican side. I have been saying that because I believe that to be true.
So
I don't know what that looks like. I don't know what that looks like. Maybe this is sort of what that looks like, but the Democrats are incapable. They're incapable.
Well, this is just this is just another example of that because they are unwilling to hold their feet to the fire. It's like, this is what you have to understand about leverage. If you do not, especially if you have cards to play, like if you have the ability to actually create a movement and you are willing to be hated, you see, this is the other thing about liberals in general. They don't like being hated. They don't like people actually coming for them because they don't do their job. Too many times people just, again, this is why we always say the reason why liberals are so dangerous compared to conservatives is that more often than not, they are the ones who are okay with things like flock cameras, with giving up your rights, because I have to have a sense of security. I need to feel safe in my suburban enclave where I have a gate and, a white picket fence and all that shit matters to me. Not about how this entire system is collapsing underneath our feet as we speak. But with that being said, when people decide that they are going to take charge, where they are actually going to fight, that's the difference between what Marjorie Taylor Greene, Thomas Massie, Joe Kent, and evidently Tucker Carlson are now doing. They are dead serious about really creating a wedge in the GOP and saying, we are either going to take over the GOP with an America First movement, or we are completely breaking away from the party and we will bring millions of people into our movement. And you better believe that with the likes of Candace Owens and a handful of others, they do have the ability to do that. They do. And the reason we know for sure that that's what's going to happen, and this is one of the reasons why they are savvy enough to see this happening before anybody else does, they know that once the Trump phenomenon is over, that party has nothing to grab onto. There is nothing. He built it. It will die with him. Who in the, you talk about the Democrats don't have anybody. Who do the Republicans have? If it's not
doesn't
Trump?
matter. It doesn't matter because the only people less popular than Trump are the Democrats. So, again, it's a math thing. The math ain't mathin' for the Dems. It just isn't.
Yep.
But I mean, and I want to be very clear, and I know that I have said this, but it bears repeating. None of these people are my people. Not one of these people are my people. I'm not in line with Marjorie Taylor Greene, Thomas Massie, or Tucker Carlson on anything really other than war and Israel. That's it. So these are not my people. I just predicted that I just happened to be the person I know that predicted that these were the people that were going to do this.
Yeah. Well, eventually the people that actually have to, this is the difference between, again, somebody like Shama Sawant and somebody like this Melat Kiros, is that Shama, if this is the issue at hand here, Shama will break bread with somebody like this. Heck, even probably someone like Abdul Sayed would. We saw what Zoran did when he went to meet with Trump at the White House. They understand their power. They understand what needs to be done here. And so in this case, MAGA Trump critics Green, Massie, Carlson meet, tout new movement. This picture shows a group of leading MAGA rebels. Well, they're America First rebels. Let's be clear. The MAGA, the separation is actually MAGA to America First. That's the separation. Who have clashed with President Trump, seated around a wooden table, smiling as they pose for the camera in exile, including in the gathering, media personality Tucker Carlson, former Republicans representatives Marjorie Taylor Greene and Thomas Massie. Massie's still there for a little while longer, and former Trump administration counterterrorism official Joe Kent. Greene provided the caption. We said no more foreign wars, and we meant it and supported Donald Trump. Please scroll, Ben.
Somebody asking me about flock cameras. I'm opposed to any cameras of any brand.
1,000%. Because he made that promise. Greene wrote in sharing the photo August 1st, but he's betrayed us all. Our commitment is America First for all Americans, right, left, and center. The movement has begun. Let me tell you, they loved having her on the Hill. You see how many, this is when you know you have a dynamic, hold on a minute, Ben. This is when you know you have a dynamic personality. You see congressional representatives walking the halls of Congress around Capitol Hill, and they have maybe, a handful of different members of the media that will be following them around. But Marjorie here has at least probably 30 to 40 members of the media that are swarming her right now because they want her soundbite. Now, they do the same, with Alex to a certain degree. But there's no question that she is a brand. She is a personality. A lot of people like her. She's not everybody's cup of tea, but she definitely is effective. So I would not discount whatever it is that she's trying right now. Frankly, I would like to, this is a situation where having Andrew Yang back on the podcast would actually be pretty beneficial, because if you're going to attempt to do this, there is a lot of work that goes into this, and almost universally it fails. So whatever they're trying to do, there better be a clear-cut mission as to what that is. Keep scrolling, Ben. Green's post attracted significant attention as she and Carlson talked about backing a new political party amid their criticism of Trump. It was shared 15,000 times on X and viewed nearly 10 million times. The Maverick MAGA confab, God, they really like to whip out that thesaurus to try to impress upon people, like they're so edgy. Comes as Trump's policies generate increasing blowback on the right, alienating some prominent supporters and dividing the GOP heading into the midterms. Greene, Carlson, Massie, and Kent all have been critical of the Iran war, with Kent resigning from the Trump administration over his concerns. MAGA Iran war critics say it goes against the president's campaign promises to avoid foreign entanglements and focus on America First policies. All right, first of all, and this should probably come as no surprise to anybody, they haven't said one single word in this article. This is Yahoo. They haven't said one single word about the fact that it was actually the genocide in Gaza by the Israelis against the Palestinians, that is where this all started from. The Iran war is a component of why they're doing this.
Well, they're skipping over the Gaza part because we're just going to pretend that didn't happen. But I would suggest, though, that these people have largely were against war with Iran long before the Gaza situation erupted 3 years ago. Absolutely. These are people that have just generally been against that, period.
Massie and Greene also clashed with Trump over the Epstein files, pushing legislation.
His hair is not purple. Peter's hair is not purple.
It's purple. I lied. I dyed it purple. Pushing legislation to release the government's records on accused sex trafficker and Israel spy Jeffrey Epstein, despite Trump's opposition. It's a really bad idea. Don't do it. the president has responded to the America First criticism by lashing out repeatedly at dissenters, prompting Green, once a top Trump supporter, not to run for re-election, and Massie to lose his primary. Green's talk of a new movement suggests they aren't going away and continue to apply pressure on the GOP as the party tries to unify ahead of an election that will decide control of Congress. Yeah, there's no unification.
As if that matters. As if it matters who's in control of Congress. Huh. Because I kind of remember Obama having a supermajority at some point, and that didn't seem to do shit. So, yeah, just one more Democrat will make the difference.
Carlson said in a recent interview that I'm going to help build a third party. Democrats and Republicans are in lockstep on war in the Middle East and other issues, Carlson said, adding the government should focus on the welfare of its own people. Tucker, Carlson, how come you weren't saying this 10 years ago, Tucker? How come you weren't? He always had a soft spot for Bernie in a kind of a cute way, but maybe this is who he is. I don't know. I mean, sometimes you need to be a traitor to your class. And in the case of Tucker Carlson, he's certainly saying the things that would imply that he is being a traitor to his class. And the fact that he's doing this right now to the GOP, hey, this is the difference between somebody like what they're doing versus what somebody like Kiros and the DSA claim to be doing. But when push comes to shove, they will always fall in line for the Democratic establishment. And that is the difference.
Guys, Peter's hair is not purple. It's just not. There's obviously a reflection of something going on in his lighting that's making his hair look purple, but it's not purple. So you guys are they're just going crazy in there about it.
You're coming me all wrong. It's the wrong tone. You complain about my hair and you're not talking about the topic we're talking about here that's more important. So pay attention. I don't want to go walking all over your faces and behinds and all that. It's not me, but I'll do it if I have to.
Let me just say it, like, I also do find when you say, well, why didn't Tucker say anything sooner, right? Like why is this now a thing? And that's exactly why this to me screams of controlled opposition, but for the Republicans. The controlled opposition in the Democratic Party has been a complete failure because we see it. So you're right. This is a little bit better. They're doing a much better theatrical performance and making it look like actual opposition. Whether or not it is remains to be determined. But I would, remind everybody that we thought that was Bernie too, right? Like that was the premise but at the end of the day, it's just to sort of keep you within the duopoly by giving you a hint that there might be some sort of real opposition.
And therein also lies the rub. The more these situations happen, and I hope that Green and Massie and Carlson and Kent and the like are all aware of this. This country is ready for pitchforks. This country is ready for guillotines. And if you keep breaking their heart, they're going to break your neck. That's where we're going now. And that's why when Kiros comes out and makes that statement, and listen, she should be hung out to dry for what she said, because that completely shows her entire ass. She had the audacity to send out a tweet afterwards saying that I misspoke. How many times did you misspeak in that 2.5-minute statement? Like 7 or 8 times? You misspeak once. You misspeak 7 or 8 times. That means that you're a liar. Period. Green previously said she's in talks to launch a new party. I think there's a group of us that if we decide to align, we could launch a true America-focused party that doesn't fall into the traps of Democrats and Republicans. She said on Piers Morgan Uncensored, while also acknowledging the difficulties of creating a third party, which is very true. And so here is her post, and here is the photo, the infamous photo that now everybody's talking about. Ben, scroll, please. So this is from, it's a small photo. It's a little hard to make out, but it is from Tucker Carlson's dining table at his home in Maine. And as you can see, it's sort of the Knights of the Round Table type thing. What are we going to do here? Listen, I appreciate their efforts. Where are the people in left politics saying we are going to break the Democratic Party if they don't adhere to the will of the issues that matter to us? Where's that coming from? I don't see it. And you have said repeatedly that they are never going to fully break away from the Democratic Party. They don't have it in them. They're too fucking cowardly to do it.
Yes. And now we'll see if that same thing applies on the right. Right? I don't know.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, them doing this again, yeah, I appreciate the effort and I appreciate the stance, but it doesn't really do anything to further my mission and my objectives because I am not an America First person. I think that sounds scarily nationalistic. I am not a fan of that. I think that's the kind of mindset that leads itself even down a more dangerous pathway. And I'm just not with that either. So these people, just because they're anti-Israel, this doesn't offer me anything politically.
Well, that's the difference between you and I. I actually am America First. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm America only. And that's the danger, because America First and America Only are very different concepts. And you are seeing a lot of people out there who just want to burn shit to the ground, who are saying America Only, basically saying, fuck the rest of the world. We don't have to deal with anybody. You want to talk about real economic catastrophe? And we're going to talk about that with Dimitri, how Iran literally can step on our throats at any moment that they want to. They literally have us by our balls and our throats.
I hear you guys as far as like America over Israel, but this isn't about America over Israel. This is me saying, I don't give a shit about your imaginary lines. Humanity first, and how we treat people is way more important to me than your imaginary lines and your ridiculous flag. Seriously, which was all made up just to create some sort of semblance of a real country and a real culture, because we really don't have any, just like the Zionist state. We're just older by 150 years.
That's true.
Or more. So at the end of the day, we're just as much of a farce as they are. And the whole red, white, and blue and all of that shit, and doubling down on all that and that mindset and what these guys are talking about, while you might feel like you have the right amount of patriotism, I suggest that the mindset of America First is xenophobic, nationalistic, and inherently bigoted. So they can choose to apply it however they want to. And I'm sure there'll be people in there for whatever their reasons. But yeah, I'm not with that.
It turns out that according to a new AP NORC poll, found that 64% of Americans believe the war has not been worthwhile. Yeah, you think? This is 2 out of every 3 Americans who believe that this is not worth it. And this is without them even knowing the depths of which our State Department has lied to the public about how many American soldiers have been killed.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And you can imagine that it is an astronomically high number in terms of how many have actually been killed.
How could it not be? All of our bases, from my understanding, are now inoperable in the Gulf states. So that, and now we're even they're being hit as far west as Jordan. So now what we're talking about is Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, the UAE, and Saudi Arabia have all been taking a beating. And our bases are inoperable. So that couldn't have happened with just a handful of dead people. And then Iran has been targeting the hotels where they know that our service members have been evacuated to. So there's no way it's under 20 people. So then we're suggesting that only under 20 people worked and staffed all of those bases in the Gulf states. That's what we're supposed to believe.
Yeah, they're trying to, Kenman's right. They're saying that only 50 of them have been killed. I mean, in what universe do people actually think that this is real? And this is also, again, my vision of America First is a lot different than, again, the vision that perhaps certain people who fancy themselves as exceptionally nationalistic. Again, I'm not that person. However, I do believe in the American people and our ability to be a nation that could be a hell of a lot better than what we are. We have 2 things working against us at the same time. We have a ruling class that literally hates our guts, that thinks we are completely expendable. That includes not just our education and our healthcare. This includes our air and our water. This includes our infrastructure. And this includes the future of our economy.
And I want to say it is definitely in hundreds and thousands for sure. And I forgot to tell you this, and I don't know if you know this, Peter, but I was watching, my favorite, whether I was on Dialogue Works or whatever, and Larry Johnson was saying that he has a friend at our hospital that our military uses in Germany. I cannot for life remember the name. You guys know, whatever the base hospital that we use in Germany. And Larry was told by a friend of his that they had just requested 150 additional medics, not assistants, not nurses, medics, 150. Now, if you figure out the math of how many people each medic would be caring for, like how you would do that, you're not asking for 150 medics to care for 50 people.
Nope.
That makes no sense whatsoever. If you're wanting 150 medics and each one of them you figure is probably serving at least 3 to 5 people, then that's probably going to be closer to what your number is. So there's that.
Yeah, we're in a very dangerous situation here because
that's it right there. Ramstein. That's the place.
So we're in a very dangerous situation here, which is, again, why nationalism ends up becoming the hallmark of the day, if for no other reason, because people are desperate and they don't know what else to do. We have a ruling class, as I was trying to allude to. We have 2 major problems working against us right now. We have a ruling class that completely despises us because, again, we are just seen as completely expendable. This is exactly why, again, I'm going to get into it more on Saturday, but something as simple as the fact that they're going to try to convince you now, after the story that I did about Candace Owens and either the second shooter or the decoy that was found on the roof, bless you, they're now saying that Tyler Robinson is suicidal. And you have been saying ever since the beginning of this that this was never going to get to trial. Like this was never going to happen.
No.
And
no,
so
this
now
is never, a jury is never seeing this case.
Correct. Which is why the fact that they are dropping these hints right now, they're telling you, yes, it's obvious what we're doing, and we don't fucking care because you're all a bunch of dumbasses who would never step up and fight for what is actually right. And so when I recognize that what we're faced with here is a complete disintegration of the country that we're living in, you have to make a decision as to whether or not you're going to break down some barriers and figure out how to cross-pollinate with people that under normal circumstances you probably wouldn't. But under these circumstances, it's either fight or flight. You have no choice. Because trust me when I tell you, there's a reason why Peter Thiel is finding his way to Argentina and some of these other people are going to be fleeing to go to other places. They know when things are getting really bad here, that things are getting desperate and people don't know what else to do. I'm not saying that you can temper it in any capacity, but what you must recognize is that in this country right now, violence is inevitable. It's already starting and it will get worse. And when you have people in left politics that you are banking on are actually going to do right by you. She's not even been elected into office yet. She won a primary and she will win the general, but she's not even on Capitol Hill yet. And she's already capitulating to Israel. Are you fucking kidding me? Like at what point do you say,
which is what makes her look like a plant, and which is what tells me that her story is bogus.
Yeah.
Hello, Lila.
Mangione monetary theory.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Before Dimitri comes on, let's have a little positive note that we can
We have a
talk about.
positive note?
Yeah. So sometimes we throw in a few things that are actually worth talking about. As devastating as what's going on in Gaza actually is, the bees are something that's very important to me, very important to you on your farmstead. And
oh my God, I love my bees.
For the sanctity of humanity, this is the only thing that could save us. If we lose the bees, we lose our ability to basically have food.
Right. So Peter sent this to me earlier and I thought it was nice. And I said, okay, we should share this because it's something that's, a nice thing. So,
you know how the Palestinians are eons ahead of us in a lot of ways? Well, here's an example of how they're ahead of us, even in the dire conditions that they're stuck in right now.
شجر احنا قاعدين بنربي نحل في الحجر المكسر المهدم
Is it coming in choppy?
Yes.
Ben, I don't know if there's anything you could do on your end, but this is everything we've been playing so far has been coming in very choppy. And
It's
I don't know
always that case because it's a StreamYard thing, I think. Like I don't think it's
I
great.
think it's a StreamYard thing. I'm not sure about that. Start again.
نحل بده شجر. احنا قاعدين بنربي نحل الحجر المكسر المهدم.
Okay, Ben, can you? I want you to pull the clip and put it back in again because we can't even read the writing. Like the wording is just like so.
We often have choppy videos, and I just think
Not
it's
like that. Not like that.
So, guys, if you're watching and you're not able to be reading, this is right now in Gaza. They are beekeeping and they're re-establishing hives. The beekeepers in Gaza are reestablishing hives. And yeah, have you been?
Yeah.
Yeah. But
if people want to
I was
understand
saying this too, by the way. I think so too. I think, and I heard you guys talking about it last night, that it's not a coincidence that it's like election week.
Oh yeah, well, of course things are going to get completely distorted.
Exactly.
Speaking of which, you think there's not going to be problems at the ballot boxes tomorrow in Dearborn, Michigan, in Flint, Michigan? You think there's not going to be problems at the precincts? Oh, you better believe there will be, because this is how they are. That's what happened. Do you remember?
Nahel. Bees in Arabic is Nahel.
That's sweet.
That's good to know. Thank you.
Listen, one of the things that I still remember very distinctly from the 2020 primary, Super Tuesday, was how they absolutely rigged the Texas primary against Bernie for Biden. Bernie was going to win the Texas primary. And I actually do believe that if Bernie had captured Texas and California on Super Tuesday, that would have probably superseded all the bullshit that they did to prop up Biden, that he was the inevitable one. And I say this because it was known consistently throughout the entire day that they were shutting down precincts in Austin. They were shutting down precincts in Houston, where they knew Bernie was going to outperform Biden in a big way. And naturally, they do this because they understand what has to happen, which is why are they throttling our videos? Because they don't want people to go vote for Sharma. They don't want her to vote for El Said or Cory Bush or whoever. Yeah, I would say that there is a lot of truth to that. It can't be too conspiratorial when we know our channel is throttled to hell. I mean, that's pretty obvious. So let's see if we could run through this video again.
بده شجر. احنا قاعدين بنربي نحل في الحجر المكسر المهدم.
That's infuriating. That's infuriating.
Show me where the genocide is happening, because I don't see it.
What do you fucking people think happens when you wipe out bees?
Yeah.
Wiping out the bees is a genocide. And I mean, I don't mean just of the bees. We can't live without the bees.
No, we can't. Bees are responsible for at least a third of the food on the planet. A third. It's probably higher than that. But hey, let's fuck around and find out. And maybe, just maybe, this is a theory, but maybe they want to wipe out. The powers that be want to eliminate about 2 to 3 billion people that are currently on the planet.
Exactly.
How's that for
That's
a stat?
very cool that he's breeding queens.
Yep. But how's that for a stat?
Yeah.
Israel has destroyed over 95% of Gaza's farmland since October of 23. But tell me again how this isn't a genocide. We said that the overwhelming majority of people that were going to die were not going to die from bombs. They were going to die from famine. That is what will kill. And it does kill. And famine kills probably as much as anything on the planet.
Yes, they are destroying bees here too. Yes. Because at the end of the day, if they can get rid of bees, then they can control the food supply.
Well, that's always the plan. That's why we say that Bill Gates is one of the most evil sons of bitches that ever lived.
He is evil. Yes, that pleases me. That
Save the
pleases me.
bees.
And that he's breeding queens. So he's being able to propagate new hives, which is amazing. I don't know a lot of people that do that.
No, but if you save the bees, you can save the planet. If you lose the bees, you can lose the planet. And so much of everything that we talk about when we talk about Israel is they represent death and destruction. If you want to get biblical about this, they are evil. They are the purity of evil in every conceivable way. Everything they touch turns to hell. That's what they do. And they do it gleefully, which is what makes it even more dystopian and apocalyptic. They are content to burn everything to the ground. They're supremacist.
And what's the opposite? And what is seemingly the opposite of Ziohel right now?
The Palestinians.
Well, I was going to say Iran. I feel like right now Iran is fighting for the soul of the planet. They are. They're supporting the axis of resistance, and that right now is what is fighting for the soul of the planet. And so I think that's what we need to really address is where are we with that? Where are we with that?
Well, if anybody can speak to that end, it is definitely friend of the show. We can now call him that officially. Since, I mean, Jen, how many friends of the show do we really have that are as
well? I mean, we have our little niche of like-minded people. And guys, if you're not watching Dimitri Lascaris on Reason to Resist, you ought to be. And he is close to hitting 200,000 subs. And I know that that's a goal by the end of August. So guys, if you are not subscribed, you need to go over to Reason to Resist and subscribe. And if you guys are not familiar with Dimitri, you need to be. Well,
let's speak to our favorite Canadian attorney, Dimitri Lascaris. Welcome back to Revolutionary Change.
Hey.
Thank you for the kind words. And if you know how many subscribers we are aiming to have by the end of the month, you must be actually watching our program.
I watch your program very much.
Thank you very much. It's kind of you.
No, you're great. And there's so many things we can talk about with you, but I do know that you recently returned from Iran. And I know that wasn't your first time there. But I thought that the best way would be for you to start off explaining about this last trip and what that was about. I know that it was for the funeral of the Ayatollah. So if you would just, talk a little bit about what that trip was and who went.
Well, before you get started, are you on the are you one of Laura Loomer's traitors that she's been touting? Because you ended up going to the funeral. I mean, that must mean that's a reason.
Well, I've lived in the U.S. for 7 years, but I'm not a citizen, so and I no longer reside there. So I guess I don't qualify as a traitor. But there was a front page article in Canada's one of its flagship national newspapers in which I was mentioned, along with a couple of other Canadians who had the temerity to go to Iran and see for themselves what was happening there. Anyways, I'm kind of pissed off, frankly, that Laura Loomer hasn't taken a shot at me yet but that may change soon. So this was my third trip to Iran in 14 months, and my very first trip in my life was in May of last year, just
Wow.
before the 12-day war. And that's correct, as Jen stated, I went there for the funeral, but my objective in going there as a journalist was even more importantly to me was to try to understand how the Iranian people were faring with the war and how they felt about the negotiations. Because it was quite clear that there was some controversy in the country about the fact that these negotiations were happening at all. So I was invited to go by the state media. The organization is called the IRIB, and people I knew from my prior trips who work for Press TV, which is an arm of the state media. And I was not paid to go, and I paid my own expenses. In fact, nobody paid me at all from any source other than the monetization revenue from our YouTube channel and some small donations that we received from generous supporters. I didn't receive any form of compensation from anybody to go to Iran and report. And I think it's important to say that because people who disagree with, my reporting sometimes insinuate that, whether I'm doing this in Iran or whether I'm doing it in Lebanon, Russia, if it's some state that is officially targeted by the halls of power in the West, oftentimes people like me who will go there and cover what's actually happening will be accused of somehow acting as agents of these foreign governments. So I'm very, very careful about avoiding anything that could support such an allegation. I do this, I don't make any money at all from journalism, frankly. The expenses of our program are, up until now, for the 2 years I've been doing this, have exceeded the revenues from monetization of the donations. So I'm fortunate to be also a lawyer, and for over 30 years, and that's how I've made a living. So sorry for the long-winded preamble, but I do think it's important for people to understand all that. So I was there for 8 days in the month of July. We arrived, I'll get back to a moment and others describing some of the other people who were invited and who went. But we arrived the day before the 7-day funeral program began, and we flew into Tehran. And on the first day, we were not able to participate because it was closed to foreign dignitaries who came and paid their last respects to the martyred Supreme Leader in a closed setting. And very, very few journalists were allowed in. But we did watch that by video feed. And then the days 2 to 7 of the 7-day program were for public participation. And so that was 6 days of public participation. The first 3 days were in Tehran and included people coming to the Masala Mosque, the largest mosque in Iran, to pay their last respects and to pray. And then by the third day, there was a huge procession in central Tehran where the coffin of the Supreme Leader and of the family members who were killed with him, including his 14-month-old granddaughter, were carried aloft a truck. And millions of people followed behind that truck through a central boulevard in Tehran. Then for the 5th day of the program, they went to the holy city of Qom in Iran. For the 6th of the 7th days, they were actually in Iraq. The body of the Supreme Leader was flown into Baghdad and then went to the holy cities of Najaf and Karbala. I wasn't there on those 2 days, but I saw from the videos that there were millions of people. And then the final day was in Mashhad, the holy city in Iran, northeastern Iran, where the Supreme Leader was born. And I left the country on the following day. So I saw with my own eyes millions of people. I couldn't possibly give you an accurate estimate. I guess the way that I tried to guesstimate with my own eyes what I was seeing was that I've gone to, European football matches and stadiums that were full of people, and the stadiums had a capacity of like 90,000 or so. So I know what that kind of a crowd looks like. And this was many, many times larger than what I saw. And each day, not just on one day, but every day that I participated or I watched on video camera. And so I feel very confident in saying that I saw with my own eyes over the course of those 7 days, millions of people. And I was only there for a portion of the proceedings on each day. So if the number of people who were participating stayed more or less constant throughout the day, then I can say with a reasonable degree of confidence that tens of millions of people showed up over the course of those 7 days. And the official estimate is 40 to 43 million. And that's the Iranian government's estimate. It is based on a variety of techniques that they use. They looked at like cell phone data, and they looked at data relating to usage of the metro in Tehran. They also had overhead aerial imagery, which they published and so forth. I personally find that number to be credible. I can't tell you whether it's accurate or not,
Right.
but I can believe that, in the range of 40 million people altogether, including in Iraq, participated in that funeral. Just ask yourself, would any Western leader, if that person died precipitously, attract that kind of an outpouring of emotion? We can, for example, look at the recent funeral of Lindsey Graham, somebody who served in the United States Senate for decades, had a worldwide reputation, not a good one, but he was well known around the world, and they didn't even have a public funeral. It was invitation only. And as far as I could tell, based on the video footage, there was no more than 1,000 people there, maybe fewer than 1,000.
I think you're being a little generous.
I'm sorry?
I think you're being a little generous.
Yes, I think the number might have been like 200. In any case, but there was a hell of a lot of hot air in that church. We can say that with confidence. In any case, going back to the point that I made about, trying to gauge the attitude of the population towards negotiations, there was a lot of anger in that funeral, expressed not only at the United States and Israel, but also towards the government for engaging at all in negotiations. There were a lot of, it wasn't disrespectful, but they were clearly irate. People were holding up these red flags, which signified revenge. There were chants that huge masses of people often engaged in about the pointlessness of participating in any kind of discussion with these pathological liars. I actually interviewed people myself using a translator in the streets and asked them about the negotiations. The vast majority of the people I spoke to said that they were adamantly opposed. A small proportion said, they didn't say that they favored negotiations. What they said was, we support the Supreme Leader, and if the Supreme Leader, who is the son of the slain Supreme Leader, thinks that negotiations should be pursued, then we will support them. But it was really an expression of support for the Supreme Leader and not for the idea of negotiations. So, and there was, while we were there, although it didn't happen in front of me, it was something that got caught on video. Both the president, Masoud Pezeshkian, and the foreign minister, Abbas Araghchi, when they went down into the street in order to participate in the funeral with members of the public, when you think about it, that's a pretty courageous thing for them to do, given how many of the leaders are in, so, and for part of the funeral, the U.S. military was bombing the country again for the last 3 days. So they went into the street, and they actually had to be removed from the proceedings by security because of the degree of hostility that was directed at them by people, huge numbers of people who were opposed to negotiations. So I'm happy to talk much more about what I saw, but that's kind of, in broad strokes, what I experienced on my latest trip.
We would never get
Dimitri,
that kind
one
of
of the things
response
that
here. We would get a celebration. Celebration in the streets. It would be, and I also think it's very telling that not only did that many Iranians come out and flood the streets, but they're doing it at a time of war. And that's not just their leadership thumbing the nose at us. Like, I really view it as like they are not scared of us. They are not worried about us. They have had it with us. They've had it. Is that a fair assessment?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And by the way, it wasn't just the bombing. It was extremely hot.
Oh, yeah.
And
we're black clothes and dark clothes. And yeah.
Exactly. And it was amazing that I saw young people, old people, middle-aged, every age group imaginable. And some of the people who were out there, I was marveling that they were able to survive, dressed the way they were very conservatively in that kind of heat. We're talking about the high 30 degrees Celsius, low 40s, a good bit of humidity, and all of these people crammed together. It was blazing hot out there. And, you know, even I found it to be challenging to stay out in the sun.
It really says a lot about the Zio scum led by the likes of Laura Loomer saying, man, this seemed like a great opportunity to drop a nuclear bomb. You know, that's the mindset.
Yeah.
And
I've had people say that to me on social media, Peter. You know, when I was in, for example, at Syed Hassan Nasrallah's funeral, the former Hezbollah leader, in 2024, dozens of Zionists on social media responded to my post by saying, you know, the Israelis should come and drop a few bunker busters on that stadium where the funeral's being held.
Well, keep this in mind. And this is one of the things about the West that I always say, and I'm very adamant when I make this statement, I make it often, you do not have the right to be comfortable. It's a privilege to be comfortable. And you could tell that anyone who makes statements like this, they're all a bunch of wannabe Laura Loomers of the world. These are people that wouldn't know what to do in a dire circumstance if their life depended on it. They would be dead on arrival. These are people that have never had hell from above rain down upon them. They've never had to jump into a shelter for security for days or even weeks on end. And they're all acting like it's just this flippant attitude. And unfortunately, the supremacist attitude of the West, whether it is to Israel or America, any cause for that matter, they look at people like Iranians and just think, oh, this is like, you know, they're rats. You know, let's just shoot fish in a barrel here. And the dehumanization is something that American propaganda has been very effective at for a long time. But with that being said, you mentioned how when you were there, you were basically engaging the populace and how they were furious at their government for even thinking about trying to negotiate with the West. And now you're starting to get stories like this. Trump calls Iranian leadership extremely duplicitous after Tehran denies new talks will start Monday. Jen, you've been saying for a while that Iran is not actually talking to Trump.
No, and I'm sure, and Dimitri, I know that you know Professor Morandi, and I am a huge fan. I have not met him. I just love him from afar. But anyhow, so I watch people like that, and I know that the Iranians are not speaking with us. They're not speaking with us. I don't even think they're speaking with us through intermediaries anymore. I really don't. So when he says that he's talking with them or they want to talk, is he hallucinating it? Are they putting him on the phone with people? Like, this is what I've been asking, Dimitri. Like, you know, parents pretend to be Santa Claus maybe to get their kids in line. Like, is somebody pretending to be Iranian and talking to Donald Trump so he thinks he's negotiating? I don't know.
Well, he's certifiably insane, right, Chen? So it's hard to say whether he believes it, he's making it up. But, you know, the foreign minister of Iran today is not even in Iran. He's in Najaf, the Shia holy city in Iraq, because there is a very important event taking place there, an important pilgrimage for Shia Muslims. So he's in no position. He's actually attending religious ceremonies in the holy city of Najaf. As I said, there's tremendous anger amongst the population about these negotiations, and the Assembly of Experts in Iran, a powerful group of clerics, they're the ones who actually appoint the new supreme leader. They put out a statement about the utter futility of negotiating with the Trump regime. Why would anybody negotiate with Trump? I mean, it just doesn't make any sense after they pretended to be negotiating in June of last year, and during that pretense, they bombed Iran. They did it again on February 28th. They were pretending to be negotiating. They bombed Iran, even though the Omani government said just before that bombing began that the Iranians had made quite impressive concessions in the negotiations over their nuclear program. So it makes, and then the MOU from day one, the United States government was violating it 6 ways from Sunday. So it doesn't make any sense that the Iranians would negotiate with Trump. Now, what is going on in his mind? I think, first of all, he might be very generous with the truth in the sense that he might be asking certain mediators like the Qataris or the Pakistanis to communicate some message to Iran, and maybe Iran is communicating some message to the mediators. So he might be calling that negotiation, or he just might be completely making it up. It could be a total fabrication, and his motive for doing it is quite clear. I think he has a powerful motive to lie about this. Number one, he wants to calm down the oil markets, and he claimed, it's not a coincidence that he said on the weekend that the negotiations would resume midday on Monday, hours after the markets open. Okay, so, and sure enough, the price of oil, last time I checked a couple hours ago, had fallen about 5% today, which is a pretty big reduction in the price of oil. The other reason, quite apart from wanting to suppress the price of oil, the other motivation he has to lie is that he promised the American people that he was going to be the president of peace. And this is a wildly unpopular war. The polls show that, you know, nearly 80% of Americans want it over and done with, and that a strong majority of Americans never wanted it to start to begin with. And so what he's trying to do, because the midterm elections are coming, and he's posturing as somebody who's making a genuine effort to get peace, and he wants to be able to blame the Iranians for the failure of the negotiations, or perhaps he's going to blame the Russians, or he's going to, you know, find some other culprit. He doesn't want to be blamed by this at the end of the day by the American voters, and so he's pretending to be engaging in vigorous diplomatic efforts. So I think he has a motivation to lie about this. The Iranians have no motivation to take part at all, and there you have it.
I would suggest that no country ever should have any deals with us. And it doesn't have anything to do with Trump per se. I would suggest that we've never maintained any agreement that we've ever made with any group of people, starting with the people that were here before us. And so why would anybody make an agreement with us, especially Iran, since what we did with the JCPOA? Like what universe would they think that we would honor any agreement?
Well, we don't.
I couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree. I wouldn't negotiate with the U.S. government. And by the way, it's not just the U.S. government. I wouldn't negotiate with any major Western government, whether it's the British, the French, the Germans. These people are pathological liars, and they cheat relentlessly.
Yeah, the only way to negotiate with these people, like I've said, is like Bruce Willis in The Fifth Element. That's how we've gotten to where we have to negotiate now.
No, listen, we're having a great, excuse me, we're having a great negotiation. We're having a great time, and we're going to make a big deal, great deal. And we'll
apparently
get this
Dimitri's seen Fifth Element. He knows what I'm talking about
oh, I know. Anybody else want to negotiate?
Anyone else want to negotiate? That's what we're dealing with here. That's the only language that these people understand.
Indeed. You know, we've said for a while that the Strait of Hormuz is basically checkmate, and everything that Iran has the capability of doing, and I have felt this from the very beginning, that this was our checkmate. Economically, this was our checkmate. That essentially what Iran was going to do in a very calculated strategic maneuver is effectively tell the West, and tell Americans in particular, you have two choices. You can save Israel, or you can save your ass. Take a pick, because you can't have both. You want to save your economy? We will allow you to save your economy, but we're taking Israel out. And I guess the head general of the Iranian military came out earlier today and specifically said, made an announcement to people living in Tel Aviv and all over the stolen country that you better, you know, if you're going to get out, you better get out now, because we are going to rain holy hell over Israel. Like, that's coming. And I believe them. I don't think Iran would say that if they had no intention. They may not engage us or want to engage us militarily in that regard. But as far as Israel is concerned, I believe that Israel they're on borrowed time at this point. What do you think?
Oh, yeah. There was a report just came out in Haaretz, the Israeli newspaper, that the level of emigration from Israel is at a record level. That was data relating to 2025. I suspect it's even worse now in 2026, but we're not going to have that data for some time. And I'm sure that the Israeli government, by the way, is suppressing the extent of departures from the country. But you can see this where I spend almost half the year. I spend half the year in Greece. And I also have family living in Cyprus, and Cyprus and Greece are overrun with Israelis.
It's an infestation. It's an infestation. Oh, yeah.
They're snapping up private residences, businesses. You see them in hotels. There was actually a political advertisement on a billboard in Hebrew that was posted outside the airport in Latanika, right? It ended up getting splashed with the colors of the Palestinian flag, but they're actually, and in the Athens airport now, you can see huge signs that are in Hebrew. Nobody can understand them except people who speak Hebrew. So that's how many Israelis are flooding into European countries in the Eastern Mediterranean. So that's the first problem. The second problem is a purely military one. It's not just demographic. In fact, the military problem is the greater problem. And a brigadier general, a retired brigadier general by the name of Yitzhak Brik, who has been an outspoken critic of Israeli policy towards Iran, just came out with an editorial in which he said that if Iran wants to destroy us, it can, and there's nothing we can do to stop it. We simply don't have the capability to stop massive destruction of our infrastructure with Iranian missiles and drones. And I know, people, there's been a lot of talk about how this problem could be solved if they could only increase the rate, the Raytheon in particular, which makes the PAC-3 interceptors for the Patriot air defense system. If they could dramatically increase the rate of production, which is very slow, that they might be able to solve this problem. But the fact of the matter is that even if they had all the interceptors they could possibly desire, they're not going to be able to take the ballistic missiles down. As Professor Ted Postel, one of the leading weapons experts in the United States, has been saying, and he backs it up with careful analysis, the Patriot system, and this is the PAC-3 version, the most sophisticated version of the interceptor missile, takes down less than 3% of the ballistic missiles. So the problem is not simply that the U.S. military and the Israeli military have run out of interceptor missiles. The problem is that they don't work to begin with. They can take down drones. They can take down slow-moving cruise missiles, but the ballistic missiles, which travel at hypersonic speeds when they are hurtling towards the Earth, they're almost untouchable. So Israel's in very, very serious trouble, and they're extremely fortunate that Iran for the last few months has been focusing on U.S. military bases.
Well, the Iranians have a certain amount of honor, and they are not going to retaliate against a country that isn't directly striking them, right? So Israel's been playing this very kind of careful. They only pick on people that can't defend themselves. So that's what cowards do. So that's their thing. And do not get me wrong, I am so happy to see us having our asses kicked out of West Asia at this level. It is so glorious to watch. But yeah, we don't understand that level of honor. So it's hard for us to fathom. Why would they not do that? Because they're not disgusting like we are like that. That's why.
Yeah.
No, and they have a culture that actually has history and appreciates what it represents. And obviously, politically, there are differences. But, we see it here in this country. We see the Iranian diaspora and what a joke they are and how much of it is based on class. I have a friend who lives in South Florida who never lived a day there, but he talks about the liberation of Iran like he was born there. It goes without saying that universally, and this goes for Israel, this goes for pretty much anything, as the empire of the United States continues to collapse, everything is essentially based on class, and it's based on economics. The people who are sitting in comfortable positions in life are always the ones who will defend the system that screws the rest, but benefits them. Class traitors are hard to come by. Cultural traitors are even harder, because they have a sense of identity that doesn't make any sense. Again, what is there? There is something to be said about what America is supposed to be, what it could be, but it's anything but that. We are a walking, I'm forgetting the word, but everything that we claim to represent, it's the complete opposite.
A walking contradiction. And yes, we are that because we're the bad guys. Yes.
We are. And the one thing I want to play really quick, because again, I want to get back to this key economic point, which I think really emphasizes what the issue is here and why everybody was wondering what was going on with Spain and Morocco the other day. This all gets back to the Strait of Hormuz and how economically global commerce has moved. And the powers that be, with the likes of Iran, which has the backing of Russia and China, and BRICS, quite frankly, which is the economic future of the world in many respects, this is what happens. And this is what is our future if we do not end this overt imperialism around the world.
Okay, guys, let me explain what is going on, because shit just got really interesting with the situation with Morocco and Spain. Okay, so what's important to understand is all roads lead back to maritime access for Israel. Israel currently has 6 ports. 5 of the ports transit through the Mediterranean into the Straits of Gibraltar, and 1, Eilat, transits through the Red Sea, going through the Bab el-Mandeb. Prior to the Iran war, Israel was also receiving imports for natural resources like oil and gas through the Straits of Hormuz, going through the Red Sea. So 6 days after the US and Israel launched a war against Iran, Iran banned all ships bound to Israel and the US coming out of the Straits of Hormuz. On June 8th, the Houthis of Yemen joined the blockade and banned all ships going to and from Israel that transit through the Red Sea and the Bab el-Mandeb, similar to what happened in 2024 and earlier in 2025. So now Israel is limited to only one maritime access route through the Mediterranean. But there is a risk involved because similar to the Bab el-Mandeb, that is a choke point for the Red Sea, and the Straits of Hormuz, which is a choke point out of the Persian Gulf, the Mediterranean has a choke point, which is the Straits of Gibraltar, which is controlled by Spain. Spain is a problem for Israel because they have taken steps to break diplomatic ties with Israel.
I would say that the walls are closing in on them economically as well. Safe to say?
On Israel, 100%.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. Israel's got a big problem. So this is, I think, quite an important video he just showed, because the vast majority of reporting I've seen around this in the alternative media has postulated that this is a manufactured migrant crisis, and the villains are ultimately Washington and Tel Aviv, using their control over the Moroccan autocrat, who, by the way, I think he was filmed drunk in the streets of Paris the other night, but that's another matter. They used him, and desperate. I mean, there's a huge youth unemployment rate in Morocco. There's a lot of young people who are trying to flee the country and to go to more prosperous places, and they use them effectively to punish Spain for its relatively pro-Palestinian posture, and also its refusal to allow its military bases to be used by the United States to attack Iran. Now, this is entirely plausible, but I think there's something more going on here. It's not just punishment. It's not just creating problems for Pedro Sanchez, who has been by far the most admirable European leader when it comes to addressing the genocide in Palestine and the war of aggression on Iran. But immediately following this manufactured crisis, I do think it was a manufactured crisis.
Right.
There's lots of evidence that people were actually being bussed. Young migrants were being bussed to the border of this Spanish enclave on the northern coast of Africa. In any case, Immediately following this crisis erupting, 22 EU states called for an emergency meeting to discuss the migrant crisis there. This is a guess, and we'll see whether or not it turns out to be correct. But I think what's going to happen when this emergency meeting is convened is that they are going to insist that the EU naval vessels from the EU collectively, effectively take control over the Strait of Gibraltar. Because the Spanish government, they'll argue the Spanish government and its military are incapable of preventing a massive influx of migrants from Morocco into Spain without the assistance of other EU member states. And why will they do this? Because they may be concerned, and they have good reason to be concerned about this, that Spain might use this narrow choke point to apply pressure on Israel and say, we aren't going to allow Israeli-linked vessels to transit the Strait of Gibraltar. We aren't going to allow weapons to be shipped from the United States to Israel. There's a significant chance that Sanchez would do such a thing. And quite apart from that, right now, there is just a global war happening now over maritime transportation. It's happening all over the world. It's not just in the Red Sea. It's not just in the Strait of Hormuz. You see European navies are boarding Russian-linked shadow tankers. They just boarded another one. They're seizing some of them. A number of these tankers have been hit. So there is a clear attempt on the part of the United States government and European governments to use their naval power to restrict the flow of maritime traffic in ways that are very damaging to the three principal rivals of the West, China, Russia, and Iran. So I think this is a setup for the EU, and if it's the EU, it ultimately will mean NATO and the United States seizing control of the Strait of Gibraltar.
They're going to try. We got a little bit more to go here, but this is, like I said, there's a lot to take from this, which is very valuable.
To break diplomatic ties with Israel. Even more important is that they have also restricted arms shipments to Israel because of the Gaza genocide. Spain barred U.S. military vessels and aircraft carrying weapons or munitions destined for Israel from utilizing Spanish military facilities like Naval Station Rota and Marón Air Base. Spain also restricted its airspace and denied use of joint bases Rota and Marón for U.S. military assets linked to operations and strikes against Iran. So where are Rota and Marón located? Right on the Straits of Gibraltar. So if you're Israel and you need to regain control of this access point, what do? You look for allies who are willing to support your genocide and your war in Iran, like your Abraham Accords partner, Morocco. Then you get your allies in the U.S. government to push to have Ceuta and Melilla, Spanish-Moroccan territories, redesignated as Moroccan territory so that you can have greater control over the Straits of Gibraltar. You even get members of Congress to allocate funding for this endeavor. But because you need public support from Europeans and Americans, you orchestrate a fake migrant invasion into Ceuta. And then you claim that these migrants are reaching Europe and this is a public crisis. Except the narrative quickly fell apart as footage showed Moroccan police, allowing the migrants in, and in some cases, inviting them to cross the border. Reporting showed that these young boys under the age of 20 were encouraged on social media to go to Ceuta. In some cases, they were told that the Spanish government wants them to come. Then precisely 24 hours later, the White House releases a statement. The United States has been clear, we recognize Moroccan sovereignty over Western Sahara and we support Morocco's serious, credible, and realistic autonomy proposal as the only basis for a just and lasting solution. Any other path prolongs the status quo and is unacceptable. The urgently needed solution will only bring peace to the region, but prosperity and greater integration for all of Africa. This dispute must end now, and the United States will continue to drive progress toward down further south, securing maritime access through that whole region under Morocco, a U.S. ally and an Israel ally, Abraham Accords member, and a country who has a military security agreement with Israel. So the moral of the story, boys and girls, is that another weekend passed by and we saw another escapade where young boys lost their lives. 57 were reported to have drowned, trying to swim to Ceuta. And the U.S. military also reported that we don't have enough destroyers to protect Israel.
And there it is.
Yeah. I find that to be a very compelling explanation for what has happened. And by the way, Western Sahara is illegally occupied by Morocco. They have no authority under international law to continue the occupation, let alone to annex it. And that was, as I think the speaker might have pointed out, that was the major benefit that Morocco got from signing the Abraham Accords, is that Washington agreed for the very first time in history to recognize Moroccan sovereignty over this occupied land. And by the way, if Trump really wanted the violence to end in that part of the world, what he would demand is that Moroccan forces withdraw from Western Sahara. Instead, he's trying to legitimize the theft of Western Sahara, which is a guarantee that there's going to be more violence in the future.
Well, this kind of reminds me of Israel recognizing Somaliland, right? Like this is one of those things. Peter called it like Atlantis recognizing Narnia. But this is where, like, the fact that somebody believes that Trump, all of a sudden now we're so concerned with Morocco's claim on the Western Sahara. That seems to, of all the things going on in the world right now, that's where he's concerned.
Indeed.
I think it's very important that, in terms of the concluding topic of the conversation, is what's going on with fellow journalist Max Blumenthal. Obviously, he was in Iran as well. And when he came back, whether it was Rubio or whoever else decided, yeah, we're going to fuck with Blumenthal, like we're really going to stick it to him. So they confiscated his belongings, including his cell phone. And obviously they went through his phone, among other things. And so now, friend of the show of ours, Janine Yanis, is representing him on a legal case in which I hope they break their bank in half. Like, I really do. And I'm wondering what your thoughts are in terms of this circumstance, how serious it is, and how much worse it's going to get for people. Because again, one of the things about watching the West fall apart is that we are still a very weaponized culture. And there's a lot more violence that could come for trying to protect the last remnants of the empire, despite all the things, the obvious signs that a significant shift, a revolutionary shift, if you will, is happening as we speak. But there's a lot of bloodshed that could come along the way. And attacking journalists, at least they didn't kill him like they do in Gaza and the West Bank, but who's to say that that might not happen as well? Your thoughts?
I mean, well, I won't, as I indicated, I think before we started today, I've lived in the United States. I lived in New York City for a total of about 6-7 years. And the first place I started practicing law back in the 90s was New York State. When I graduated from law school in Toronto, I went directly to a Wall Street law firm. And that's where I was first called to a bar to practice law. So although I'm not a U.S. citizen, it would be relatively easy for me, in theory, to come to the United States and even to live there. But I won't come to the United States. I have not come to the United States in 3 years. It's probably the longest time in my lifetime that I've not actually visited the U.S. And the reason is because I don't want to suffer the same fate as Max Blumenthal. Max Blumenthal is a U.S. citizen. I am not. And in addition, Max Blumenthal, I believe his father was, worked for the U.S. government. So if they're willing to do that to Max Blumenthal, I'm on thin ice, and there is no way in hell I'm going to give the U.S. authorities. I've done nothing wrong. I've not violated any laws, but I'm not going to give them an authority to see the opportunity to seize my computer devices. And I continue to practice law. I have privileged information on my computer devices. Those lunatics will just violate the privilege and examine the information. So quite apart from that, there's my issue of my privacy. I also will not enter the United Kingdom, by the way. That has become an extremely dangerous place for journalists like myself, to travel. The precedent here was really set. We could go back further in time, but I think the most horrific precedent of all was Julian Assange. Here you had somebody who was a Westerner, a citizen of Australia, spent much of his life living and working in the European Union. And they not only seized his computer devices and detained him, they tried to psychologically destroy the man. And they came pretty damn close to doing it. Yeah. And I think he's still recovering from, there were human rights experts from the UN who examined Julian while he was in a maximum security facility, a hellhole in the United Kingdom, and said that he was being subjected to torture, psychologically speaking. So they got away with that. There was absolutely no accountability whatsoever for what they did to Julian Assange. So since then, it's basically been open season on journalists. And we've had the Israelis killing American citizens like Shireen Abu Akleh, the famous Al Jazeera journalist. She's a U.S. citizen. They initially claimed that she had been shot mistakenly by some Palestinian militants. Then they admitted that it was an Israeli soldier who killed her, and nothing happened. So this is a very, very dangerous time for journalists, particularly those who are not Western citizens. And I stand in solidarity with Max Blumenthal and all those like him who are being persecuted for their fearless journalism.
Do you not have any problems getting back into Canada? Like is Canada like just not having that?
So far, no. I have not had. I do have a friend who is a very well-known critic of NATO and Canadian foreign policy. She has been in the last year and a half. She's not really a journalist. She's an activist, and she's doing a doctoral thesis. She was interrogated in a very. It's a long story, but what happened in that interrogation by a member of the Canadian Intelligence Service is very troubling. But that so far in Canada has been a rare event. I don't think that's going to last much longer. I hope I'm wrong about that. But so far, the worst places by far in the West for journalists to travel, in my opinion, at this point in time, are the United States and the United Kingdom.
Yeah, I think so.
Why is that? Why has the UK become such a disaster in so many respects?
They don't have a Bill of Rights, a constitutional Bill of Rights. So
we do.
Are you sure we still have it? Are you sure we do?
Yeah.
Well,
we do it in name only.
Not since the Patriot Act. I mean, we lost 4, 5, and 6 with the Patriot Act. 1 is on shaky ground always. I mean, I don't know.
Well, it still provides a measure of protection. Remember, it was the British. It wasn't the U.S. government that imprisoned Julian Assange. It was the British. Right. There still is, a healthy measure of protection being provided by the Bill of Rights in the United States. But the problem is that the courts have been stacked with, people who are hostile to civil liberties. And this is partly the fault of the Democrats. The Democrats, there was a time when the Democrats were appointing to the bench judges who were vigorous supporters and defenders of civil liberties. Those days are long gone, and the Republicans have gone off the deep end in that regard. The people they're putting on the bench.
You could thank me for all the wonderful things that I've done to America. I've destroyed this country in more ways than one can ever begin to imagine. And that's not even my crimes against women. It's my crimes against humanity. And he really is. I mean, Clinton does not get enough flack for what he has. To me,
he does from us. He does from us.
But in terms of the impact, the devastatingly evil impact on our history, he is much worse than Reagan as far as I'm concerned. Reagan got through some pretty bad shit, but when you line up what Clinton was able to do, even during his first 2 years when he had a super majority filibuster-proof Senate, he got through the worst shit. He got through NAFTA. He got through the crime bill. He got through the early remnants of normal trade relations with China, where there was no protections for labor. This is a Democrat who did this. And
I totally agree with you. Absolutely right, Peter. He was worse than Reagan by a country mile.
Yeah.
You know, I saw this.
That's the nicest thing anybody's ever said about me since I've been dead, so I appreciate it.
You know, there was
is that I can understand why Reagan did some of the things he did in the early stages of his presidency, but his firing of the air traffic controllers and then obviously his mental incapacities, which you're seeing now with Trump, as you did with Biden. It's so obvious that once these guys, this is why they like having old cadres in positions of high authority in the United States, because they're the easiest ones to control, easiest ones to manipulate. They don't know what the fuck's going on. Trump is still convinced he's negotiating with Iran, and anyone with half a brain knows, yeah, that's not actually happening. So they get these guys in there, and the worst possible shit is what ultimately comes to the surface. And so my great concern is that this whole whitewashing of what actually went down, the policies that were passed, everything happens over the course of many years. You don't feel the removal of Glass-Steagall 5 minutes after it happens. But everything as it relates to the banking system that has been completely running roughshod over the world for the past generation is a result of Clinton's removal of Glass-Steagall back in '99. And the fact that you haven't had one person, with the exception of Bernie Sanders in 2015 and 2016, to say that we should reinstate Glass-Steagall. I have never heard anybody say it. This is Republicans. This is Democrats. This is proof positive that this is a collapsing empire. It can't be saved, and a revolution is inevitable, and we should be embracing it rather than running from it. Rant over.
Hear, hear. A revolution is inevitable, and we should be embracing it. I'm all for that.
We have to. There's no other choice. We're not voting out of this.
Oh, no. No, electoral politics is a mug's game, and we need to overthrow the system. The system is designed to advance people who are incompetent, morally depraved, and profoundly hostile to democracy. That's the system.
Yeah.
How do you, in conclusion, how do you foresee, I mean, we could talk about the midterm elections and what impact, if any, that's going to have. But in reality, how do you foresee this kind of unfolding over the next, we'll say couple of years regarding Israel, regarding the United States? Because this the populace of this country is getting restless. We sense it. We see it. And all signs point to, I don't know if it's going to be a storming of the gates type situation. I don't know how many people are ready to die, but you never know. There is a situation here where the American people have lost faith in their government, and they're not going to get it back. So the question becomes, when does it really start to become kind of a pitchforks, guillotines type situation?
Before I answer your question, I just want to, observe that there are in excess, I think the number is 500 mass shootings a year in the United States. The average, I think in 2025 or 2024 was almost 2 per day, with a mass shooting being defined by a minimum of 5 victims. So why is that happening? I'm not a psychiatric expert, but I think it has a lot to do with anger. There are a lot of angry people out there who are lashing out senselessly, and nobody's trying to make any kind of an effort in the corporate media or government, as far as I can tell, to gain a thorough understanding of why this happens. They go through this kind of song and dance whenever there's a mass shooting, and most of them don't even get reported on now because they become so standard.
Yes.
But they'll go through the song and dance about this person, they had a grudge against his former employer, or he just lost his family, or he was psychiatrically disturbed. He was a substance abuser. There may be truth to some or all of that from one case to another. But there's really the one thing cannot be denied, that these people who are going out there and randomly shooting other people are extremely aggrieved, and they feel that they've been cheated and wronged in some sense, and they're lashing out in the very wrong way, obviously. But there is, to my mind, no question that the United States society is a tinderbox. And, people are increasingly fed up with the callous indifference of the political and economic elite to their own suffering, their own hardships. There's like 500,000 families a year in the United States that declare bankruptcy because they can't pay their medical bills. I think more than half the population is one paycheck away from an economic crisis. And it's getting worse. And more wealth is being aggregated in the hands of the ultra wealthy. And the way I think this is going to play out, and it will depend ultimately on how steadfast the Iranian leadership is they will be forced to restrict the flow of traffic through the Strait of Hormuz and with their allies Ansar Allah and the Bab al-Mandeb Strait to such a degree that the global economy will be plunged into a crisis. And that is going to be the spark that lights what I would describe as revolutionary forces in a number of Western countries. It's not just the United States, obviously, where there's huge discontent. We just saw Starmer, the British Prime Minister, leave office after less than 2 years, and when he has a large majority in the British Parliament because he's so despised. Emmanuel Macron has and the French president has an approval rating of 12%. There are strong indications now that the German Chancellor is going to be tossed out of office as well, not in an election, but just because he's so despised. So the West is a tinderbox. It's not just the United States. And if we are plunged into a global economic crisis, I think there's a good chance that all hell's going to break loose.
I'm hoping.
Well, you are.
I'm hoping. I'm so here for it. I am so done.
I've been saying for a while, and I believe this from the jump. I always say, and you can check this out, guys, on our TikTok page, which is Revolutionary Change on TikTok. The day after October 7th, we had a live stream, and Jen was very prophetic in that moment in terms of what was coming, what was going to happen to the Palestinian people.
What did I say to you?
2 million dead people in the desert. Said that October 8th, 2023. And whether it's actually going to be that number or something close to it is not that far off. And at the same time, when we're asking ourselves, what does this revolution look like, or is it going to look like? I have always maintained that the only reason, because anybody who's ever encountered Israelis, Jen has lived amongst them, I've had to deal with them in business and in life. They're not nice people. They're actually very unlikable people.
The most entitled people on the planet. There are no more entitled people on the planet than Israelis.
However,
I've known this my whole life.
However, when you take a primary example of an area that I'm sure you're familiar with, Boca Raton, Florida, or Aventura, Florida, on Miami Beach, these are very affluent areas. These are not well-to-do areas. These are not successful areas. These are ruling class level areas. And because of, as cliche as it is, the amount of money and power they control, whether through the banking system, Wall Street, global politics, like, the WEF, NATO, etc., there is something to be said for people who genuinely don't want to deal with them, who would rather us disintegrate this relationship altogether, but they understand the economic consequences of what that could mean, because the Israelis and the Israel culture as a whole have a death wish. They are willing to burn it all down. I've always said there is no country more dangerous in the world that would drop a nuclear bomb than them if they felt that they needed to. And who knows how many they've got lined up ready to go if they needed to do that. Because when they go, it's not going to be pretty. And so I often think that a lot of times people's silence over the last 3 years has everything to do with economics and nothing else. Mm-hmm. They were fearful of their own economic positions, of their positions in society, especially people with big platforms. Bruce Springsteen, who's the worst one of all as far as I'm concerned.
Right, move on from that.
Is he a Zionist?
No, Bruce? But he protects them.
He's just a coward.
He's a coward.
I didn't know that. That's disappointing.
Very.
Whereas somebody like Roger Waters, who has taken every sling and arrow that you could possibly take, he doesn't give a fuck.
No, I mean, Dimitri, think of it this way. Bruce hangs out with Barack Obama.
Oh, God, I didn't know that.
They're friends. Yes.
So
it's embarrassing for him, really.
Yeah, when people have the platform to speak out and they don't do it, how many lives could have been saved? How many lives could have been saved during the pandemic if we had a single-payer healthcare system?
Well,
all these things are relevant.
Yeah.
All of it.
Yeah.
It's all relevant. And at some point, you just know something is going to happen. We're looking around asking ourselves, when is the dam going to break? It could break at any moment at this point, as far as I can see.
Here's hoping.
And I think that's precisely why there's such a radical increase in surveillance, because the elites know it's coming.
Yep. For sure.
And if that's not enough to get you out in the streets, just remember, they're getting rid of the flock cameras as a distraction from replacing them with Axon cameras, which is Israeli intelligence cameras. How do you like that?
Wow.
It's all connected. By the way, burn down, get rid of all of the surveillance centers. And
we need to get rid of surveillance centers.
Language is everything. You got to stop calling them data centers. They're surveillance centers.
That's an excellent point. I will use that phrase from now on. Thank you for that.
It's true. Thank you so much, Dimitri. It's always good to see you. I follow your adventures around the world, and I appreciate you very much doing what you do.
Thank you so much.
You are a testament to amazing work. We thank you wholeheartedly. If you could, I know it's not easy, but if you could potentially link us up with Professor Morandi, that would be amazing.
The problem with Professor Morandi is time zone.
We will adjust.
The Iranians with their, what is it, on the half hour? Are they on the quarter hour? Like, what kind of crazy, like...
They're seven, it is weird. They're 7.5 hours ahead of East Coast time.
Exactly.
And, yeah.
Half.
I could, he does interviews in the evening in Tehran. So I can, if you send me some contact info, I will share it with him and encourage him to reach out to you.
You are the man. We appreciate you.
I might not be able to handle that. I might not be able to handle that. Like,
you'll make
like,
it
no,
work.
Seriously, I don't know. We'll see.
Get your fellow Greeks in line and recognize that you got to kick those Israelis out.
Yeah, get them out of there.
I'm trying hard.
Thanks, Dimitri.
Take care.
Good to see
you.
That was fun. And of course, this is why we do what we do. And if you did enjoy it, please consider going over to patreon.com/revolutionary change for as little as $5 a month. You can become a supporter of our small but mighty, despite heavily suppressed, yet still growing channel. And as you know, we also have Substack. We are also on Rumble, Instagram, and TikTok. And of course, let's get
Apparently, we're still generational change somewhere.
Oh, that's Ben.
I know, but why are we still generational change somewhere?
I don't know. I don't know why Ben has generational change, but that's something he'll have to explain. I think that's on Rumble. That's on Rumble.
It
it's
might
not,
be, but yeah.
Not able to change it on Rumble. So Rumble has like these weird rules that you can't do that. So it's interesting. Kenman with the 279 Canadian A, differentiate between left and progressives.
I know. I got to differentiate everything now. This is why I hate labels.
You're saying the ism. Yeah, being an ism is kind of silly. It doesn't really.
Nika Wicca, Ben is somebody that's worked with us for a really long time, and he is filling in for Colin while Colin is on vacation right now.
I decided to let Colin out of the dungeon for a little while. He's allowed. He's allowed to have some. He doesn't just get he doesn't get bread and water. He gets some air too from time to time. Kenman again with the 279. Progressives silent on Iran war for the most part. Yes, of course. Well, remember, this is the thing about having courage. And it's one of the things that is very lacking in progressive circles. This is also why they don't speak out against the DSA and their sandbagging of Shama Sawant. Now, I want to believe, knock on wood, that Shama should be able to clear the top two tomorrow. Again, knock on wood. But she really did this without the help of anybody. You know, we helped. Sabi helped, RBN helped,
Wait, but you're okay. First
Keaton
of all,
Russell helped.
but here's the thing: Shama already has a certain amount of name recognition. Shama is an entity in Seattle, so
Right.
it's a little different than some unknown candidate coming out of nowhere. It is.
Yeah,
She
it's true.
has an established reputation. She has a name, and so I do think that it's different.
That's part of it, for sure. Jim Talib with the $5. Always a pleasure, buddy. And Sky Blue with the 50. What is this?
It's
this
Norway.
I
It's
said, no,
Norway.
I beat you. I did. I said, Norway. Axis of resistance will totally liberate Jordan, and it will lead to unity with Palestine, and
I
that
hope
will
so.
end Israel.
Here's hoping. Here's hoping, Sky Blue.
Yeah. I mean, look, if there's one thing we have learned, you look at this country and you look at a lot of other countries, and what do you notice? We're not going to have the time to get into a full-blown conversation about this, but in Texas, over 70% of the voting population in Texas and over half of the GOP in Texas voted to legalize cannabis. But guess what Texas is also known for? The for-profit prison industrial complex, just like the state of Florida. And when they legalized it, the for-profit prison system started losing a lot of money. You know why? Because as it turns out, there's a lot of petty crime that gets people put into prison because of overcharging. Jen, you could speak more about how this is a
Well,
situation.
obviously, the quote unquote war on drugs and specifically going after cannabis users is just the same concept as broken windows policing, where we go after people for petty and non-existent crimes so that we can fill up our prisons and make a lot of money for the prison industrial complex. And again, I'm an abolitionist, so I find it all to be ridiculous. But yeah.
Be it as it may, they decided in Austin, Texas, at the state capitol, that they are just effectively going to overturn the will of the people and make cannabis illegal again. Why? Because recidivism is a very profitable industry when it comes to the for-profit prison industrial complex. And if they can't make their money, what are they going to do? Well, this is kind of, as we've pointed out, why I can't stand Planned Parenthood. Planned Parenthood is an organization that, as much as any in Democratic Party politics, stands in the way of single-payer healthcare. Why?
And yet it's a necessary organization that saves lives.
Of course.
And helps a lot of people that would otherwise not have options in places where there are no other options. And so, again, Planned Parenthood at a local level is necessary. Planned Parenthood nationally as a lobbying organization is a net negative. Those two things exist at the same time.
Yeah, but what about making the money? Isn't it about making the money?
Not for Planned Parenthood, not really. It's just political for them at the national level, which shouldn't be a thing. But the local Planned Parenthood, the statewide Planned Parenthoods, the services provided by Planned Parenthood are critical. And now we can examine why that is. We shouldn't have a country where we need to have, organizations like Planned Parenthood in order for women to not have mass death and mortality with their reproductive health.
Correct.
Yeah, we do, but we're here. We don't have health care. And so we do need clinics like Planned Parenthood. And I know people who would have never survived their teenage life if it were not for Planned Parenthood. So it's important.
Yeah, I want to clarify this because I see our friend in the chat. APAC is dead. I live in Texas. We never voted to legalize cannabis. I'm just going to read it to you because I can't pull it up. Texas just made weed a felony after over 70% of voters voted to legalize it. Is that what we call a democracy? When the representatives of a state will openly defy the will of voters because incarceration rates went down so much that prisons lost money? Texas is an effing Republican-run hellhole, sure. And then from politics and policy, Texas ranks last in personal freedoms, according to the Cato Institute, which is a libertarian think tank. Texas is last, even though they claim to be the state that loves freedom more than any other state. Understanding what actual freedom is, that's half the battle. As I said,
You can't have actual freedom in a capitalist economy. Those two things don't coexist. So if you support capitalism, you are not supporting freedom. Those two things do not coexist. Because when you have to like work to just stay alive and live and struggle, and your life is constantly struggle, that's not freedom. That's wage slavery.
You ask yourself how much more you want to be treated like a slave, because that's what's going to happen.
I live on what we call a farmstead, not officially a farm. I'm working in that direction. I have a farmstead.
Well, that's a good, that's where you want to be. And then again,
got a whole bunch of potatoes harvested today.
The one thing about Texas and why it is such a, I'm not a big fan of Texas. I like Dallas, Fort Worth, but in terms of a state, like I would never live there. And
I loved it. I loved living there. My first son was born there, and I'm a big fan. San Antonio rocked. I would have not left if I could have stayed. So
Texas is far and away the #1 state in the union with the Christian Zionist population. There are millions. You want to talk again, when we talk about Christian Zionists, Texas is the state. And the 3 biggest evangelical pastors in the United States, Kenneth Copeland, John Hagee, and Joel Osteen, represent Dallas, San Antonio, and Houston, respectively. And these guys have millions of followers. And they're filthy rich, too, in case you haven't noticed. Remember Kenneth Copeland talking about Tyler Perry selling him his Gulfstream jet? He made the price so low, I just had to buy it. And don't you dare say anything bad about me. See, he's got it in the eyes. See, the eyes say everything. It's in the eyes, Chico. Now, let's have a little fun because it's the end of the show. We're going to do a little Zio hunting, and this is going to be multiple. It's going to be multiple stops here.
Okay, bring it.
Now, I'm not going Zio hunting in Christian Zionist Texas per se, but we are going after some very necessary scumbags. There really is something to be said for how much delusions of grandeur that the average Zionist has in their brain. Yes, they probably copy Trump, but this is actually pretty funny when you get right down to it.
Hold on, I'm packing a bowl. I got it. This is, which one are you bringing up first?
Which one would you like? Shirt or no shirt?
No, bring up man titties. Let's look at man titties for a second.
Okay.
Because I sent these to Peter. I didn't realize you were actually going to grab on them. But
so apparently this is somebody who doesn't, I'm not even going to explain it. You'll just see and we'll discuss. What's wrong with the audio?
Why is there no audio?
Yeah. Ben, what's going on? I'm sorry to put those images right in your face like that, but
I know I have to look away. This requires
Ben? Ben, are you there? All right. But yes, a very unsightly scene. So while Ben does his thing to hopefully fix that clip, we will go with another clip.
We'll start with the other one.
Okay. Now, I often like to joke that little Ben Shapiro has a real problem trying to get through puberty, and that's why he's such a miserable little fuck. And now you're going to see, now you're going to see why they're so damn miserable, because there's a lot of other little Ben Shapiros out there running around.
Burger King, and an employee in Burger King just said free Palestine to me. Ariana, what did you say to me? What did you say to me, Ariana? What did you... Okay, Ariana. Because I was just ordering food for my family, this woman looks at me and she says, where are you from? I said, I'm from Israel. And then she says, free Palestine. And I...
Yes.
Great.
As
That's
well
what she should say. That's what every American
Actually,
should say to your
what she
stupid
should
ass.
say, what she should say, but this is a working woman just trying to get by. But what she should say is get the fuck out.
Yeah. And doesn't it speak so much to the class element?
Oh, look at him. Look at this man. If this is not some serious inbreeding, I don't know what is. He honestly looks like he should be cross-eyed.
What is he hoping to accomplish by targeting this young woman working in a Burger King? Do you want her to get fired? Is that
He's
what you're
not
trying to
targeting her. He's not targeting her. She had the balls to say something, but he didn't target her. He's just calling her out for saying something.
Yeah. Oh, well, why? Because she said free Palestine? What does that mean?
That's all I would say to him. Well, I'd say a lot more, but
I know
she's
you
not in
would.
a position of authority. Yes, but she should not risk her job.
I said, what does that have to do with anything? We came here to order food, but she insisted, free Palestine. What, say it again. I got you, Ariana, here at Burger King. No problem. So back in the car right now, obviously.
Oh my God, what is wrong with his eye? I didn't even notice this.
Oh yeah, no, there's a level of inbreeding here that I can't even discuss. Meanwhile, this guy has his kids with him.
Yeah, again, monkey see,
I
monkey
think I
do.
see his kids in the backseat. Okay, and he's going
Yes.
on about how he was mistreated by someone saying free Palestine.
That they're doing this to me. My God. I am gonna slap you.
If anybody knows
upset,
what
but-
the 9:30 is in reference to on his shirt says 9:30, like the time 9:30.
I actually don't know what that's in reference to.
No, I don't either. If anybody has any idea what that is, please let me know.
Yeah, somebody's got to have an idea. But yes, that could definitely pass for Schmutzy's younger brother, without
Yeah.
question.
We asked for a refund and we left the place, leaving me with the question, Burger King, are you a safe place for Jews right now?
Yes. It's a safe place for Jews. It's just
Yes.
not a safe place for Zionist pieces of shit if there's somebody
Correct.
that works there that has a conscience.
Mm-hmm.
That's where we
Oh,
are.
absolutely. Yeah, that's really the whole point. And again, you do not have the right to feel safe. It is a privilege to feel safe.
And it's Zio owned, by the way,
Yep.
Burger King.
There you go. Yep. Yum Brands.
Those are all things that need to be boycotted by anybody who, supports Palestine anyway.
Yeah, that is, and again, like I said, the fact that one of his eyes looks like it's like shoved back into his face, like I don't understand that. That you think that that's a source of inbreeding of some kind.
Well, there's something wrong here. He got his little panties in a bunch.
Now, of course, the real downside, and this is why we like to do Zio hunting and call out little bastards like this in between some form of puberty, little pea brain. He goes after a young woman working her job and he wants to get her fired.
I don't know that he wants to get her fired. I don't know that.
Oh,
I don't know
I
that
absolutely do.
you
I
think
absolutely
that.
do. Uh-huh.
It's not going
100%.
to, I don't know that.
That's why he called her out by name. That's why he probably addressed the actual location. The whole idea is, I don't feel safe here. So you better get rid of this girl. She better be fired. Otherwise, I'm going to tell all the Jews to not come to your restaurant. In reality, I don't know how much economic impact they think they can actually have. I would doubt that it's actually anything of significance. But if you thought that guy was offensive,
Welcome. I think we're back with man titties. Hold on.
this is
Yeah.
even worse.
Film me all you want. Why don't you tell me, how is there a genocide? How is there a genocide? Tell me right now. You can't do it. All you can do is film it. You know what? You can show the whole world what I'm about to say. There is no genocide in Gaza. The population in Gaza has grown, and I've asked you now, define the term genocide and explain how genocide is happening. But you can't do it. All you can do is smile and basically retort as if you have all the answers, but you can't even answer it. Sir, how is there a genocide? You don't want to say? Why aren't you going to talk to me? You asked me if I want to stop the genocide. I asked you, tell me how there's a genocide. Yeah. Film all you
Let it finish, please. Just let it finish. There's no need to stop.
fucking want. Film it for all your friends. I'm sure they're going to jack off to it later. I'm a great looking guy.
Yeah, that's what we're doing, Flashdance. We're all just so, we're enamored.
I
with
mean,
with your gut and your man titties.
I was just going to say, I mean, if any man needed a bra, this man needs a bra.
And by the way, my arms are more cut than yours, dude.
Well, of course. But he's the best looking guy in the history of the world. Because if anybody,
I'm a great looking guy.
Honest to God, if anybody needed a little Ben Shapiro treatment, it's this bastard right here.
Oh my God, finish it. Now I have to play it. Finish it.
Well, of course. I mean, that's the idea.
Finish the video.
No, you could play it.
You
think it's better than me, Paul? You think you're saying you're hanging there all day, you're higher than me, you're better than me? Yeah, well, I don't miss you. You're not. I'm a father. I can think that you are not better than me at all. Yeah, I'll teach you.
Yes, he needs a man's ear. Exactly, or the bro.
Man's ear.
The bro or the man's ear.
The bro. What did they call it?
Well, they went with they were arguing. One of them's like it should be the bro, and one should say this is the man's ear. But I think they were
man's ear.
Man's ear.
Okay.
He thinks he's. Look at it while it's paused. I'm a great looking guy. People, let's just let us know. Is there anyone in there that thinks this is a great looking guy?
Well, I mean, he's probably lactating right now. That's why he's, acting the way that he's acting. He probably needs to get a little drip out of his.
This is ridiculous. I mean, like the arm. What is so? I don't get it.
No, and how about the fanny pack? I mean, I
wasn't even going to talk about his fashion choice, really. I mean, the headband screams, something very 80s.
I was going to say, the headband was kind of like a dead giveaway. But this is, again, it's not even so much that it's not just so much that it's narcissism on steroids. It's when you have an ideology that you truly believe in the ethnic, cultural, religious, social superiority of everyone else, you do buy into this bullshit.
Is this in New York? Do you know where this is?
Yeah, it's New York.
Mm-hmm. It's New York. Okay, guys, this guy feels good about himself.
Just a little too much.
How is there a genocide happening? You have no answers.
I could give you a bunch of answers as to why the genocide is happening, not the least of which is that you are starving these people to death. Not the least of which is that you are bombing and saying, but you know what? I don't need to explain this to somebody like this, because the reality is that even if we could give them ironclad evidence of what they're doing, it wouldn't matter because they find it justifiable.
Well, which is why there's no point in talking to these people. But that's what's so funny. Like this guy, I just think it's funny that he thinks he's all that. Look at this guy.
All I can say is whether it be the woman, unlikely, or even the man, more likely, how they would want to be on the bottom of something like this, you have to pay a lot of money for it, probably.
I was asking you, how is there a genocide happening? At least on Twitter, there are people on Twitter who actually say, here's why we think there's a genocide happening, and they're totally wrong, but you can't say anything.
Oh.
Now, once again, like I said,
that's something.
Oh
yeah, you're something there.
Too sexy for my fat body.
Yeah.
Again, I only go after We only go after the exterior if the interior is so evil and hollow and dead. And that's what his is. And yet,
no, I'm going to go into it with how bad he is, because he is self-proclaimed a great looking guy. See, it's like, if he was just there and being sincere, even if I don't agree with him or whatever, but no, he's there and he thinks he's so good looking. He actually thinks he's so good looking. And I just find that fascinating. By what standards is that good?
Well, considering, well, hold on. Considering how inbred looking so many Zionists actually are, by the standards of a Jewish Zionist, he might actually be a good looking guy. And I'll tell you why.
I'm not going. Let me tell you, I grew up in a very Jewish neighborhood. In fact, the second largest per capita Jewish neighborhood in the country at the time, in the 70s. And I can tell you, there were very many attractive people. There were very many non-inbred looking people. I dated good looking boys. Like, this is not just because, yeah, that's not a thing. All right. I'm saying that this guy thinks he's all that, and he isn't. So I don't say it's like indicative of, the Jewish community per se.
Now we have one last Zio hunt, but it's not coming from myself or from Jen. It's actually coming from a fellow Jewish pro-Palestinian woman confronting a Zio cunt on the streets of New York.
You support terrorists. Do you support Hamas? I'm against terrorism too. I'm against terrorism too. But I don't support Hamas.
Keep moving. Go away.
Okay.
We don't want no Zionists here. Keep moving.
Why are these clips so bad?
We don't want no Zionists here. Why are you anti-Semitic? First of all, lady, you're not a Semite. But again, see how they jump right to that? We don't want Zionists here. Why are you anti-Semitic?
Well, let's try it again. Hopefully it comes through clearer this time.
I'm against terrorism too. I'm against terrorism too.
Keep moving.
But I don't support Hamas.
Keep moving. Go away.
Okay.
We don't want no Zionists here. Keep moving.
Anti-Semitic.
We don't want to talk to you. Keep moving.
Exactly.
Keep moving. We don't want to talk to you.
Fuck you. You hate
We don't want to talk to you.
Nice try, bitch. Nice try. Nice try. I've already been there.
This woman is having none of it. Now, again, like I'm telling you, don't pigeonhole all the Jews in the community, because while I am very familiar with those people that look like this girl on the right, I am also very familiar with this woman on the left's type too, because that's the kind of woman that I'd be friends with when I would be in that community. So both of these women are indicative of where I grew up.
And this is also, and one of the reasons I froze it here is because I want you to see what it looks like when you are talking about a working class Jewish woman and an affluent Jewish woman.
Yes.
This is a class war. This is a woman that probably lives, maybe in Brooklyn, maybe in Staten Island. And this is a woman on the right who probably lives on the North Shore of Long Island, or lives in New Canaan, Connecticut, or lives in Alpine, New Jersey. This is a class war, pure and simple.
And I come from the people on the left. Not, I mean, in the left of the photo. I mean, well, both. But I mean, like, my people my relatives were all very working class. I was the first person in my family that went to college. So, like, very working class people. So that's why I am very familiar with both of these archetypes.
100%.
Nice. You're not fucking Jewish. Genocide is not a Jewish value, bitch. Genocide and occupation is not a Jewish value. Genocide and occupation and rape and murder and blowing babies up is not Judaism, bitch. It's Zionism.
Yeah. See, I know girls like that too. She even kind of looks like somebody that I know.
She had to walk. Well, you know who she looks like, Jen? She looks like freaking, what's her name? The one, Stephen Miller's wife.
No. I'm talking about this woman looks like someone that I know. This woman here looks like someone that I grew up with, that I know from childhood, and would talk like that. that I know from the Jewish neighborhood. That's what I'm saying. She reminds me of a
Genocide,
friend of mine.
genocide and occupation is not a Jewish value. And you know,
Bitch. Oh, do not leave off her bitch. He
yeah.
did it purposefully, so it was good.
But the one thing that became crystal clear here, and I want you guys to pay close attention to this image. When she got confronted by another Jew, that's when she walked away. See, she wanted to fight with them because she wanted to prove that, oh, they just hate a bunch of Jews. And then the real Jew shows up. And now she's like, oh, fuck, what do I do now? How do you engage somebody that is like, hey, I got the fucking Star of David on. What do you want to say to me? Huh? You want to start trouble? I'll give you
see in the
trouble.
mouth on her. La boca on this woman, right?
Yeah,
so
boca.
that's
Yeah,
it,
absolutely.
right. Like that's very like my ancestors came from Brooklyn, that were the New York people. My New York people were Brooklyn people, and they all like they didn't take shit, right? Like they sort of like how Rachel's family and they would all get the Italian people were.
Oh,
These people will get down with you.
Oh yeah.
They will throw down.
Yeah.
And this woman on the right would not do that. That's not where her people come from.
There is no question that the attitudes of Zionists make them as ugly as possible on the inside, as it is projected on the outside. But it is also something to be said for when they get confronted by one of their own, supposedly, and then they don't know what to do. And this is why we've said there are not enough Jews that speak up. And it is unfortunate, but it's clear in that moment that she was kind of rocked by it. Like it was like she took a body blow, took a 2-punch combination to the jaw and a shot to the gut, and she was just out for the count. She couldn't even say anything. She was calling her, bitch, get the fuck out of here, bitch. And she didn't say anything. Now, if she was being antagonized by the other people who maybe weren't Jewish, probably weren't, but were just going after her, she would have gone right back at them. You're anti-Semites, you're this, you're that. But then when the Jewish woman confronts her, she don't have anything to say. What are you going to do? Call her an anti-Semite too?
Well, they do. They call us self-loathing Jews.
Sure. But
they
here's the other thing.
They want to, but I don't even care. I have a very, very strong, good, loving relationship with Semites. I don't have a problem with Semites. Semites are great people. So, you can call me anti-Semitic, but that's just silly.
And
I have plenty of Semite friends.
And Kathy is absolutely correct. You see, she also got the sense that that Jewish woman was going to beat the ever-loving shit out of her.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Those are, and it is a class thing. It is. And those people, my family people, they were scrappy. You know what I mean? Like they had to be scrappy. These were not, they were not comfortable.
No. I do not know what you're talking about. I do not like any Zionists at all. There are no exceptions. None. I don't care how attractive they are. And frankly, I don't think that they are. That's just my opinion. Everyone is entitled to their own, but I see what I see. And in the end, we will continue to point this out because, and we're going to leave on this note, there was a fight in the Knesset. I believe it was Knesset or one of the offices adjacent to it. And there was a member that was going after Gavir today.
I saw it.
Calling him an animal, saying you're going to, but what he's really saying is, it's your fault that we're all going to get killed. And you know what? You kind of all of this, you've all earned it. You've all earned your inevitable demise. It just so happens that it's like the mowing of the lawn. You do it little by little by little. When you do it at the breakneck speed that Israel has been doing it at, and then you couple it with the breakneck speed of the American empire's disintegration because Trump is at the head, there is no way to ignore it. There is no way to sidestep it. The revolution is inevitable. Hold on tight because the ride's going to get a lot bumpier. But hey, we're here for it. Last super chat before we go. Sonia with the $1.99, leaving early tonight. Happy Monday to you all. And a happy Monday to each and every one of you.
Thank you, everyone. No, it's truly, if everybody shares, it's so helpful. It's, you
It
know,
is.
yeah.
Any and all help that you guys can provide. As soon as this live stream is over, leave a comment, make sure you've liked it, share the stream, do all those things we ask you to do, as we always do. We love you all. We appreciate you all. We'll see you Thursday, and
Free Palestine.